Oh no, this isn't good at all. Queen Diva Marie has a subscription-based fan page.
I have a brand new song that I just wrote for Jillmas this year. So last year I had the song Deck the Halls with Molly Holly. Okay, I got a brand new one this year. I'm going to sing it to you. Okay, here we go. Oh, I have a prop for this one, okay? Okay. My holy night, the stars... You get it, Nia Jax? What do you think, Mayor Sta.çé?
Actually, I resigned as mayor. I am now officially the social media manager, town historian, and global ambassador of LumberJillville.
Wait. Are you saying that I am now the sole mayor of LumberJillville? Well, with co-mayor Alexa. Of course. That's excellent. And hey, I hope you found something amongst all those titles that you enjoy and that you love. But I'm going to be honest with you. There is no chance that I remember any one of those titles. Really big words. So is it okay if I call you Secretary Sta.çé from here on out?
Sure, whatever you want. Now, if you don't mind, I have some more language learning to do using the Rosetta Stone subscription co-mayor Alexa got me for Jillmas.
Wait a second. Something's fishy here.
What? No, I'm not hiding anything that I just came across on my phone when you walked in.
Huh? I was going to say it's a little fishy that you can learn a language from a stone. But now that you mention it, you did act real weird when I came in, mostly by karate kicking your phone. What did you find?
Okay, fine. I cannot lie to you. Queen Diva Marie has apparently created an only residents subscription fan page.
What's a subscription fan page?
Where fans, or in this instance residents of LJV, pay to see exclusive and sometimes explicit content.
Oh, like boo-boo and wee-wee pics?
I would say mostly feet pics, but that's just an educated guess.
Hold up. So you're telling me our newly appointed queen of LumberJillville is selling pictures of her feet to residents that pay on a secret webpage? I'll be honest, I don't believe it one bit. Let me take a look here for myself. Yoink!
That's what it seems. And maybe even more illicit pictures. I can use my tech abilities to delete this page, but we should have a talk with her.
Hold up. Let's not make any brash decisions, okay, before you delete it. I just have to ask, okay, how much does someone make for having a page like this? Asking for a friend.
Mayor Aaron. No. I know what you are thinking, and I do not think it would be profitable for you to make an account.
Dangers! Man, I could always use the extra money. Oh, hey, you were right. It says right here, Diva Marie is the self-proclaimed queen of feet pics. You nailed it. How did you know that? Welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Now, before we get started, make sure to subscribe for a first look at all future women's wrestling figures and also figure history videos like this one. Now, it's bittersweet doing a figure history of Mandy Rose figures. Obviously, she just got released by WWE because of her content page, we'll say. And feel how you may, I want to honor her in the best way I know how here in LumberJillville and do a figure history covering all of her figures that she's had released by WWE. Now, She's had some amazing ones, and she's had some weird ones to say the least. So this is definitely going to vary as we go from her first in the line fig all the way to her most recent, but I'm excited to cover them. So I'm not going to give my opinions or my thoughts on the situation because I definitely have a lot. That'll probably be another video if y'all want to see it. It might shock some of y'all what I think. But either way, think what you may. I'm just here to honor her time in WWE and cover her figures. Mandy Rose's first in the line figure in WWE Basic Series 92 released in 2018. This attire is from the November 20th, 2017 edition of Raw. On this night, Mandy would make her main roster debut, joining forces with Sonya Deville and a returning Paige. Absolution was born. So let's talk about Mandy's first in the line figure because surprisingly, this is a sentimental one to me. Now, this is one of the first women's wrestling figures that I added to my collection years before I even started LumberJillville. I remember going to Walgreens at 11 p.m., coming across this, and at the time I was getting into the women's division, and I remember I was thinking, oh man, she's on TV right now. This figure's awesome, and it said first in the line, and I was blown away, and I thought my daughter's gonna love this, so I bought it, put it under her pillow, and about a week later, when I had her next, she found it, she loved it, I loved it, and this is definitely a shared figure of ours, and it's very sentimental. That's why I only have one of these. You know, a lot of figures I have multiple of, but this one is so sentimental that I just want one. So this Mandy means a lot to my daughter and I, but taking a look at it itself, it has flaws. Let's be honest here. And the big major flaw, and I mean big, is that head. That head is so out of scale with the rest of the body. It really throws this figure off. And this figure had the potential to be a pretty excellent women's basic. And what we got here was a questionable part choice here. So let's look at that old noggin of hers. So yeah, this head is just way too big, way out of scale. But the face scan itself and the details there actually look pretty darn good. It does look a lot like Mandy. And I really love that blonde hair sculpt, how it's got a little wave to it. It's a beautiful hair sculpt. It really looks good. So yeah, the face sculpt, the face scan, and the hair is great, but it's just scaled up a little too big. I wish it was smaller to kind of fit in with the body. Now the body sculpt itself, it works pretty well for Mandy. Now, an interesting choice that they made on the backside here, if you look, is they painted her tights a little bit risque there. We had a little cheek showing on this basic, which we really didn't get much at the time. So, you know, they went a little risque with this basic, I guess. But yeah, the paint application was unique in that way. But unfortunately, with that top, what does stand out is that generic sports bra mold that we saw a lot at on women's basics at the time. And here it really stands out because that gold paint really makes it pop, and it looks a little bizarre. But I do love that they went with a metallic gold paint for the top and the bottoms. I think it looks great with a black accent, so the paint application is great. She even has a gold choker necklace painted on, which is a nice detail. She has a black band around her arm, and she has black knee pads painted on. And these boots are one of my favorite parts. You know, they're metallic gold, obviously, but she has white sculpted laces, and you can see rose clearly on the side, which is an issue on her first Elite, which we'll cover next. But yeah, so this figure, to me, it's special because of the connection it kind of gave my daughter and I. And truth being told, I got this for her, but this is definitely one of those figures that got my mind racing, thinking, I love women's wrestling figures too. I'm going to start collecting for me. So this is definitely an important figure to LumberJillville's history, and I love it for that, despite its flaws. WWE Elite Series 75, released in 2020. This attire is from the 2019 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which took place on February 17th, 2019. In this historical women's tag team Elimination Chamber match, Sasha Banks would make Mandy Rose's teammate Sonya Deville tap out for the match finish, making Sasha and Bayley the inaugural women's tag team champions. Let's take a closer look at Mandy's very first Elite, which in my opinion is leaps and bounds better than her first in the line figure, which is that basic. As far as quality goes and likeness goes, this figure rules. I also think it's one of the most underrated Elites of all time. No one really seems to talk about it, and on top of that, I remember when this figure hit store shelves, and it seemed to sit in my area. No one really seemed to buy it, and that's too bad because this figure is freaking awesome. And I want to say it was in my top my first 10 reviews in LumberJillville. I reviewed this very early in the channel, and I remember this so well because I came up with the idea to dress as Goldust. So I went and got a blonde wig and some gold and black face paint, and I had a blast doing it. And, you know, since then I always do crazy, wacky shenanigans in my videos. But yeah, I had a good time filming this review, and yeah, I really do love this figure. Now, looking at the details here, this is a very particular look for her. So they nailed the look, which was the attire from the Elimination Chamber. And that's great, but it wasn't a very signature look for Mandy. What I mean by that is, starting off with the head here, we do have a really fantastic face scan and face sculpt that looks just like her, spot on. And we have a high ponytail hair sculpt. She really didn't have a high ponytail often, so I wish we would have gotten Elite that was based off of a night where she had kind of her more iconic attire, which is like the metallic gold that we saw in the basic, but in Elite form I wish we got, with her long flowing blonde hair sculpted. But like I said, the night that this depicts is pretty spot on, so I can't complain. They did a good job here. Now, as far as the attire goes, what's really cool is we get this very unique vest accessory, which has a lot of intricate sculpted detail throughout, and the gold and the black is really sharp. Her attire is also really cool. Now, looking at the bottoms here, I believe that's a reused part from the Kairi Sane Elite. I could be wrong, but just looking at this, it kind of looks like Kairi's piece here. But anyway, looking at the top is a completely unique sculpt for her, and it looks great. A lot of detail there. The only thing I don't like is between her top there on the chest, it's painted black as we go down. And I wonder if that's kind of like a censor type thing, because if that was painted flesh tone like it was in real life, it might have been a little too much cleavage for an action figure as far as Mattel goes. I don't know. But either way, I mean, the attire does look really, really cool. I really like the simpleness of it too, just all black. She has black painted around her wrists, black knee pads with the gold logo. And then here's what I was talking about previously with boots. So we have these metallic gold boots with white sculpted laces, which is great. And rose is painted on the sides. However, because the pin joints, the rose looks really off. It looks bizarre. They didn't paint over top of that, obviously. So yeah, it looks like Ross. You know what I mean? So that's the unfortunate thing with that pin joint there and with the paint on the side. But either way, even though this is a very specific look for Mandy, going off of that Elimination Chamber match, and I do wish we would have gotten a more iconic look like that basic, her first in line figure. I wish we would have got that in Elite form with the scaled down head, because I think it would have been fantastic. But for what this figure is, it's truly amazing. WWE Basic Series 126 regular version, released in 2021. This attire is from the November 16th, 2020 edition of Monday Night Raw, where Mandy Rose, Asuka, and Dana Brooke defeated Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Lana in a 6-woman tag team match. Her left shoulder was taped on this night with KT tape due to an injury she sustained on Raw the week prior, where she took a nasty fall on her left shoulder when Nia Jax threw her out of the ring. It's important to note, Shayna Baszler stomped on Mandy's shoulder early in this match using the ring steps as a base. So Mandy barely got any TV time on this night, so it's actually remarkable we got a figure of this night. So the regular version of Basic 126 is a pretty solid figure, but I love it for one specific reason. You know, I'm an athletic trainer, take care of injuries and all of that, and I use tape. And I love on her left shoulder that they added the Kinesia or the KT tape on her shoulder there, even though this really isn't a pattern that you would use on her shoulder. I see what they were going for, and I think it's really cool. It's just black painted on there, but I just love that little detail. I think that's so cool, being a medical field nerd over here. So yeah, I love that. But the figure itself is also pretty good. I mean, this face sculpt and face scan is really cool. It's very similar to her Elite that we just looked at, but obviously we have a different hair sculpt, which is when she had the shorter blonde hair, and yeah, it looks fine. But yeah, and this is one of those situations, I say this all the time on the channel, but this is definitely one of those situations where if the scan is printed on even a little bit off, it looks really bad. There's a lot of Mandy Rose Basic 126s out there, even now, that have really bad looking faces because the scan was printed on a little off. But this one's printed on good, and yeah, it looks great. Now, moving on down to the body sculpt itself, I mean, it works. This is a pretty simple body sculpt. You know, we see very few body sculpts used throughout the women's basics, unfortunately. Hopefully we see a little bit of a change in the future. You know, that Xia Li is pretty groundbreaking. But anyway, this one works fine. It's very muscular. Definitely gives her physique there. And the attire itself is just painted on, but it's painted on with a metallic blue color, which looks really nice. And then the rose on her chest is like a silverish blue metallic color. And then we have little accents on the top and on the bottom that goes around. And that's definitely cool. We have blue knee pads, white boots with black rose on the side. So this to me is a pretty dang solid women's basic figure. I love it because of the shoulder tape, but on top of that, I just think it's a great look for Mandy. WWE Basic Series 126 Chase version, released in 2021. This attire is from the January 11th, 2021 edition of Monday Night Raw, where Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke were defeated by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. So this Chase version of Basic 126 Mandy is one of my daughter's favorite figures. She absolutely loves this. Now, obviously, this figure stands out because of all the pink. I mean, that pastel pink looks great, especially on Mandy. And obviously, this is the same figure as Basic 126 with some different paint application. Now, it's not just the color. So obviously, we have this pastel pink, like I mentioned, and the designs here, the rose, and also the little accents are a dark pink. Looks really cool. But the overall design is painted on different. So what I mean by that, if you look, starting with the tops are different design patterns. So it has a more straight across application there on the Chase version, but it also is painted up to go around her neck. And she also has it coming around the sides and then lace painted on. So there's a lot of attention to detail here with the paint application, which is nice to see. But yeah, as you can see with the tops, there are pretty major differences as far as the design goes, so that's cool. Also, we have a pink armband on this Mandy. And then we have pink knee pads, white boots with rose painted on the side. So, yeah, I think this is an excellent figure of Mandy. It definitely is a good depiction of her character at the time of this figure. And, yeah, I think it's a pretty darn solid women's basic. WWE Elite Series 98, released in 2022. This attire is from NXT Halloween Havoc 2021, which took place on October 26th of that year. On this night, Mandy Rose would defeat Raquel Gonzalez in a trick or street fight match chosen by Chucky to become the new NXT Women's Champion. So I literally just posted the review of this figure recently, like last month. And in that review, I said that this was the best women's wrestling figure that I have reviewed in LumberJillville. Now, that was until I reviewed Elite 99 Queen Zelina Vega. I think that is the best. I think that one unseats Mandy from Elite 98 as the best figure I've reviewed. But either way, I can't take away from this Elite 98 Mandy. This figure is phenomenal. And like I said, I did a full review and breakdown of it, so make sure to check that out. But I just wanted to show you this one because it's great. I think this is the best Mandy Rose figure we've gotten. Now, it depends on what era Mandy you want to represent in your collection. If you're just looking for one Mandy, this is obviously NXT Champion Mandy. And the Blonde Elite, the Elite 75, is kind of the Golden Goddess Mandy. But this one, I can't say enough good about this. I think one of the best parts about it is that face scan and sculpt is unbelievable. Even the eye color. I mean, the lipstick color, the hair being real dark, but it coming down over her shoulders. I mean, that face scan, face sculpt, and hair is unreal. It is awesome. I really do like that we get this wing accessory, even though it's kind of situational, as she wore it on that night. But I think it definitely looks cool on display. Definitely makes this figure stand out. And the attire itself is awesome. There's so much detail in this attire. So not only do we have a lot of unique sculpting on her top and her chest, but also her attire there. And even the bottoms are painted on very intricately to be designed like how they are in real life. So yeah, they really went the extra mile on this figure and they knocked it out of the park. I can't say anything bad about the figure itself. Like I said, before that Zelina, this was the best women's wrestling figure I've reviewed. And as of this recording, I think this ranks as number 2 right behind Zelina. But I am going to be doing voting for the Jillies Award Show for 2022. And I'm real curious because I think this one might be voted as the figure of the year. But yeah, this figure is fantastic. All right, next up, we're going to take a closer look at the Mandalorian figure here. Wait a sec. I don't think this is supposed to be here. Now it's time to rank the figures from worst to best. Now remember, this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. What's your least favorite? What's your favorite? Let me know. Now I am putting my sentimental feelings to the side, and with that being said, at number 5, I have her debut figure with WWE Basic Series 92. Yeah, this might be one of my sentimental favorites because of the story behind it and it being one of my first women's wrestling figures. But you can't hide the fact that that head is way out of scale, way too big, and it really does throw the figure off. And on top of that, that head is so big and heavy that she really doesn't stand up. Like, if you stand her up without hunching her over, see ya. Maybe if I put her arms in front. Yeah, no, she just doesn't stand very well. So you kind of have to hunch her forward. So yeah, I think this figure has a lot of flaws. And even though I sentimentally love it, it's number 5. At number 4, I have Basic Series 126, regular version. Now, I think this is a good figure. I think it's a solid Mandy Rose Basic. But I think that Basic 126, the Chase version, edges it out because it seems a lot more like Mandy, right? I think that pink color really pops and stands out. And this just really depicts her character great at the time of this gimmick. At number 2, I have Elite Series 75. I think this is a fantastic Elite, one of the most underrated Elites of all time. As I mentioned, I love this figure. I think it's great, but it is kind of disappointing that they chose such a unique look for Mandy. I think it's cool to some aspects, but I wish we would have gotten kind of the Golden Goddess looking Elite form instead of this one. But for what it is, this is a great Elite, one of my true favorites. And at number 1, to no one's surprise, we have that Elite Series 98, which in my opinion is simply one of the best women's wrestling figures I've ever reviewed in LumberJillville. I can't say enough good about it, and I'm real interested to see if all of you fans vote this for Figure of the Year. So stay tuned for those videos very soon. So it's no secret that right now, people feel very strongly about Mandy Rose being released from WWE. I think people feel very strongly one way, and then some feel very strongly the other way. And I've seen tons and tons of posts, debates, comparisons, and even arguments on social media over the situation. And honestly, I just wanted to make content today that everyone could sit back and enjoy. And I wanted to try to throw something positive out there to the community because I know there's a lot going on. A lot of people are very angry, either at the situation or at other people feeling a certain way. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to do something and share my love because these figures are very sentimental to me. And I mean, I didn't mention this earlier in the video, but this Basic 126 Mandy, I got the pink one for my daughter for Christmas almost a year ago, and I got the blue one for myself for Christmas, and I thought it was so cool that we could each have our own Mandys for Christmas. And yeah, I mean, that's why I do this channel, right? Because I love women's wrestling figures, and I love women's wrestling. And if I could for a second make anybody out there happy or just enjoy my videos with all the crazy news going on, I hope that I can. So I love y'all. Wanted to say that. Now, with all the mushiness aside, thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. For our first look at all future women's wrestling figures, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com and use coupon code LJV to save 10% on your next order of women's wrestling figures. Now, there are a lot, and I mean a lot of videos coming out very soon. I'm working on the Jade Cargill versus the She-Hulk in the Battle of the Sculpts video. And I'm also working on the year-end videos where I cover all the women's wrestling figures of AEW and WWE Elite, WWE Basic. And yes, that will begin the voting for the Jilly's Award Show, which will be more than likely at the end of January. So I'm working on a lot of really exciting things for y'all, and I can't wait to share them. So thanks for stopping by. Hope you subscribe, and have a great night, y'all.